Out in the desolate Colorado high desert, hidden behind miles of razor wire, sits a facility known as the Alcatraz of the Rockies. What does it take to build a complex that guarantees no one ever escapes? The United States Penitentiary Administrative Maximum Facility, ADX Florence, covers a massive footprint in Fremont County. It is a highly fortified, self-contained fortress. It serves a single brutal purpose: permanently swallowing individuals deemed too dangerous to live anywhere else. By the early 1990s, the federal prison system faced a breaking point. Traditional maximum security facilities could not contain their most violent offenders. Guards were being murdered, riots were breaking out, and high-profile inmates continued to run criminal enterprises or radicalize others from the inside. The Bureau of Prisons decided on a severe shift in penal philosophy. They would stop trying to rehabilitate this specific tier of inmates and focus entirely on total, unyielding physical control. Opened in 1994, ADX Florence was designed to solve this crisis by isolating the threat completely. The construction of this facility signaled an admission by the justice system. Some human beings cannot be reformed, only buried alive safely. Every inch of ADX operates on a principle known as control through architecture. Seismic sensors detect footsteps, while infrared beams scan the perimeter. If a bird flies too close, the system triggers. Everything operates with redundancy. Doors and alarms have manual overrides. If the grid fails, backup generators activate instantly. There are zero blind spots. Inside the cell blocks, 1,200-pound reinforced steel doors open and close remotely. The corridors are angled specifically to allow guards to monitor multiple lines of sight from a single control room. By design, no two inmates ever cross paths. These systems converge to create a building that effectively removes the human margin for error. Since the facility opened, no prisoner has ever breached the perimeter. The individuals locked inside these walls make up a catalog of modern historical terror. It holds domestic terrorists responsible for massive civilian casualties in the 1990s, like Oklahoma City bombing conspirator Terry Nichols. Ted Kaczynski served his life sentence here after his calculated, decades-long mail bombing campaign. It houses international threats, including the masterminds and conspirators behind the September 11th attacks. And it holds Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, the Boston Marathon bomber, who maintained an air of defiance even under 24-hour surveillance. These are men whose mere presence in a general prison population poses an unacceptable national security threat. Behind those steel doors, high-tech security gives way to a primitive, claustrophobic reality. Inmates spend 23 hours a day locked inside a small concrete box. The bed, desk, and stool are poured concrete. A single slit window frames only a tiny patch of sky. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner arrive through a narrow slot in the steel door. For 1 hour a day, prisoners are shackled at the wrists, waist, and ankles and escorted to an outdoor recreation pen. Known as the dog run, it is simply a concrete pit where they pace in circles, entirely alone. The isolation forces inmates to invent extreme coping mechanisms. Writer Sabir Shabazz figured out how to heat up his cold prison burritos by wrapping them in plastic and setting them on top of his cell's fluorescent light fixture. Others attempt to break the agonizing silence by tapping rhythmic, coded messages through the ventilation pipes, desperately trying to communicate with neighbors they will never see. When human beings are totally stripped of environmental agency, they will invent extreme micro-routines just to prove they still exist. This environment also dictates the lives of the staff. With roughly 400 employees overseeing about 350 inmates, ADX maintains an unusually high 1.22 to 1 staff-to-inmate ratio. The burden of enforcing absolute silence takes a heavy toll. Former officers frequently report severe anxiety, sleep disorders, and emotional detachment. Many quit after just a few months. But for the inmates, the clinical consequences are devastating. Psychologists who study long-term isolation have documented a distinct pattern of mental decay known as SHU syndrome. Data tracking long-term isolation shows a precipitous decline in cognitive health over time. Once paranoia and hallucinations take hold, the mind loses its ability to anchor itself in the physical world. The sensory deprivation dismantles the human mind as effectively as the concrete walls contain the body. The methods used to guarantee safety are the same ones that lead to permanent psychological decay. The severity of these conditions led to the Cunningham versus Bureau of Prisons class action lawsuit in 2012, which forced the federal system to confront its treatment of severely mentally ill inmates in isolation. The resulting settlement created bureaucratic compromises like the Stages Mental Health Treatment Program and highly restrictive step-down units designed to slowly transition inmates towards slightly less isolation. Yet a glaring paradox remains. For terrorists and cartel leaders serving multiple life sentences without parole, the step-down program offers no real path to freedom. For these individuals, progress merely means being moved from one isolated concrete box to a slightly different concrete box down the hall. ADX Florence remains a flawless engineering success, but its efficacy rests on a troubling trade-off. It protects the public with absolute precision, using methods that the inmates and the courts have likened to torture. Leaving us with a lingering moral question: can absolute security ever exist without a terrible human cost?